What's going on? It's your boy Will My Craven coming to you with another video. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Hit all those, please. It would be gladly appreciated. It helps the algorithm and the channel. Um, with that being said, I want to talk about a conversation I had. Might have been this week, might have been last week. I had a conversation with a female friend, and not quite sure how we got on that conversation. Um, Somehow or another we got on it. And actually, I think she brought something to my attention and asked me a question about a certain matter. And one thing led to another. We were talking about females and how they're defensive. And I'm a Cancer. She's a Scorpio. Sure, she'll know specifically if I'm talking about her, but I doubt anyone else will. But um, she's a Scorpio, I'm a Cancer, and we were talking about fellow water signs and how we interact with each other. And I mentioned that the best signs that I actually deal with are my actual own water signs. Scorpios they actually sit at the top of that list. Uh, it's just something about how we interact with each other. Because my sister's a Scorpio. A few other ones that's close in my circle, they're Scorpios. So I kind of know them just as well as like with Virgos too. Know those very well. But for some reason though, with Scorpios when I interact with them, um, you know, crabs, cancers have the claws, scorpions have the claws. So we can be very defensive when it comes to home base. And generally with Scorpios, they will try to uh, they'll attack you to some degree just to keep you off of them. But it tends to not really work so well with me because, like I said, I got claws too in the crab shell. The shell is hard, so when they do this stinging thing, it just really doesn't affect me. So I made mention of that, and somehow or another, she ended up getting out of me of how I talk with other Scorpion women, and like I say, they suit the best, but it always gets to the point to where we get ready to round third. They never last that long. They never last past third base, and it's simply because me personally, I like to deal with issues. I don't be persistent with issues, but I just don't leave them dormant. So at some point, the issue needs to be addressed. Past matters should be addressed so you can move forward. This is what I believe. Because anytime you sweep something on the rug, it's gonna eventually get a lump in it, and whether the lump gets bigger or not, it's there. So it becomes a cosmetic issue. It becomes an issue if you decide you want to lay down on the rug. You're gonna feel that bump, and it's just not good for it to be there. So, like I said, I like to deal with certain things. So, she's going back and saying, or going back or and stating, well, you shouldn't leave us alone. This is our way of being mysterious. Once you take our mysterious form away from us, um, we no longer have that mysterious thing about us, and we kind of lose our muster, and then it makes us vulnerable. Which I mentioned in a whole nother video about women being vulnerable. They don't like the whole essence of being vulnerable. Creates that uncertainty. Matter of fact, that was the happiness video. Might have been the one before last or the last one, but it creates that issue. So as we're talking about going through relationships, and she brings up aspect about dealing with certain guys and then it not working, and then it creates that hurt, and then they get defensive, which tends to happen with quite a bit of women, not just Scorpios. Then that's when the issue arises. And this is when I stated, yeah, that's actually a big issue for me, because at this point in my life, it takes away from the freedom to actually let things flow. And it led me to the aspect of talk, because the more we talked, the more I started remembering various Scorpion women that I dealt with. And it led me to speaking about the last one, which was last year. And I turned around and I stated, each one taught me something, but the last one taught me something that as men, we're not really taught. We're not taught the extreme importance. And I think it's probably because a lot of men don't understand until they finally get a certain age, well, older, more or less beyond 40, the importance of the woman being a virgin. Like it's not really received now, which is such a shame. But that woman last year, compared to every single woman I've ever met, was totally different. And I remember in my younger years, virginity was not pushed. It wasn't pushed, and it was oh yeah, go get you an experienced girl. Go get you an experienced girl. Not realizing that what I know now is that there's, when they say virginity and pure, it really does mean pure. There's no hurt there built up. There's nothing there outside of the teaching of the parent that's actually there. So, and it took me back to a question I asked. It might have been a couple years ago on Facebook. I don't even think it was a question. It was something along the lines of me stating, in regards to having a virgin woman, and a lot of the guys came out and was diabolically opposed to it. And I don't want to have to teach her. I ain't trying to teach her nothing. I want to jump right on in. But it's interesting because knowing what I know and seeing so much throughout the course of my life, I totally understand that, guys want, because they've already experienced something from another woman, they want this woman to already be ready-made. But the problem is, once she's already gotten with the guy, that guy's imprinted on her. I don't care how you feel, what you think. The harsh reality of it is, men really don't get imprinted like women do when we're involved with the opposite sex. There's the imprintation is totally different. Once a man is imprinted on a woman, she's going to take up a lot of his characteristics. This is why I said in the previous video that when a man cheats with another woman, he'll have a tendency to say, especially if it's his wife, he'll have a tendency to say, "Well, you starting to act like my wife." And I'm sure there's women out here who've been side chicks who've heard something like that, or turned around and say, or he turns around and say, "You acting like my girl," because she takes on the characteristic of the man. So that woman he's already with, his wife, whatever, she's taken upon his characteristics. So she's been drawn to him. So now that's the next woman gonna do the same thing. So a lot of guys just simply don't understand that because they've never been taught. So, like I said, the instance where I had with the woman last year who was a virgin, and she had just turned 30, and there were circumstances that actually led her not to be currently married, and she got my attention. I noticed that she got my attention. We started interacting, and unfortunately, she made a promise with her father that she would marry a guy who had a child, and of course, I have a child. So that's the only reason why nothing articulated after that. But when I was talking to my friend, and we were talking, and I said, you know what, the honest truth is, because I never, ever encountered a woman to do like that, that's based in the United States, it wouldn't have taken me long to marry that one. which I told her, I said, I would have married her within a year, without a question, because I wasn't even her husband, and she was bringing me things so she could make decisions upon it. She waited upon my response. And then the advice and stuff that I did give her, that she came to me, she followed it. There was no fight. It was none of what I've ever experienced, just to be perfectly honest. It was nothing ever of what I've ever experienced, which was totally different. And the fact of the matter that her dad technically raised her like I would raise my own daughter, and when she turned around and when she started interacting with her, she's like, man, you remind me so much of my father. Yo, like, it's let's just say, if it's not like that, I don't even want it, because there was never any bickering ever. There was no bickering. The only disagreement that we had was where there was the thing I stated as far as a teaching her dad had, and I'd said it didn't make sense because, well, I knew she wouldn't understand it because it was kind of different. Basically, I wasn't in his shoes. He had kids, and the kids were with their mother. Unlike me, my son lives with me. I'm with him all the time. I don't have baby mama drama. I don't have none of that crap. So that's neither here nor there. But there is a big, vast difference in dealing with a woman who's been with someone as opposed to a woman who hasn't been with someone. She doesn't have anything to turn around and make her feel some type of way. She hasn't been hurt. So therefore, she's not as defensive. And this is something that a lot of women just simply don't understand why they're defensive. They think they're defensive because that's their mechanism, and that's just how they are. No, you weren't that way before you got your heart broken. Before that guy broke your heart, you wasn't that way. And if you're honest with yourself and you take a stroll down memory lane, you'll remember how you were. Here's the truth about us as human beings. Anytime we experience something bad, we try to avoid it. We don't want to experience that again. Like this here. I ride bicycles. I done fell off this bike quite a few times where the pedals wouldn't unlock. So there are times in my mind when I can't, if the pedal don't simply come out as smoothly, well, I don't have as much problem like that anymore because I rigged it. But prior to when I first got those pedals, somehow or another it malfunctioned, and the seat, that's the seat that was on it then. It ain't on it now. It ain't on it now. But I was downtown Chicago, going back to work from lunch, get a street from the facility, and I couldn't get my foot out of the pedal. It just locked in. I mean, I'm doing everything trying to get out of it because I knew I was coming to a stop, and I could not get out of it. What happened? Bam! Fell right over. Broke that $500 seat. Yeah, seat cost $500. It's a Ronin Specialized. You can look it up. Ronin Specialized. That mess was $500. So I was on fire. Not only was I on fire, in fact, the matter is I fell. So in my mind, like experiencing that, couldn't get my foot out of the pedal. It was constantly in my mind, like, okay, I gotta make sure I get out of it because that experience happened, and it cost me $500. Had to turn around and go buy another seat. So things we experience that are negative, we remember them, and we don't want to experience them again. And it makes us make adjustments. We make adjustments. If you've ever been in a car accident, you remember that. You try to do things to avoid that. You may not take the same route anymore. If a guy looked a certain way, if he had dreads and tattoos or whatever, and next time you see it and you had a bad experience, next time you see him, oh, I don't want to deal with that because I had an experience with that. Same thing when I mentioned with the Scorpio and the Cancers. There are plenty of individuals out here who've had a relationship with whether it was a cancer. And we all know it. When you turn around and you introduce yourself, and then they find out, oh, you can't. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't like dealing with y'all. It's automatic. So the unfortunate matter is that in this country and in this world, sex sells. Sex sells. So it's pushed because it's making money. We can go on the internet right now. We're gonna see all type of sexual type things manifesting. The relationship world, the dating world is centered around it. So you're being manipulated into having an emotional feeling and emotional experience. And as we know, when emotions run high, there's a tendency, it acts like a drug. So you may not remember certain things, or may not even be paying attention to certain things. So you don't catch certain things. So now those experiences that you're having are actually in jeopardy because your emotional state has been triggered and you're not going to think thoroughly, which then leads to you being hurt, which then leads you to be defensive. And I say this all the time. A defensive position is a fighting position. So anytime you're defensive, you're prepared to fight. And if you decide to fight, the other person, once you're in a fighting in a defensive position, then they're going to get into the defensive position at some point, because now they have to counter you, which is why fighting takes place so much. Because individuals, based off our experiences, we become defensive. Now in defense, we're ready to fight. The movie is running through my head right now, Transformers, where she walks in and the guy's talking about China's got their nuclear strike or whatever, defense is ready. And then she turns around and says, well, isn't that what we're doing? Because you saw them getting defensive, now we get defensive. That's just how it happens. And with the individual as a woman being a virgin, you don't have all that defense. It'd be nice if we pushed that a lot more. And people, when it was getting pushed by certain celebrities, people were making fun and with the Tim Tebow and all that other stuff, poking fun. Oh, you know, he probably getting with that, or he ain't doing nothing with her, so she might as well go ahead and tip out. Man, we don't push that enough, and I get why it's not. Just people one aspect is a lot of people just simply lazy now. They don't want to teach, and like I said, actually, that takes me to that, because a lot of men don't want to teach. And it's not so much so that they don't want to teach. They don't have nothing. They don't have nothing to draw from to teach. How can you teach when you have nothing? You can't teach much, which leads me now to that part. What I was going to say, true masculinity is teaching. So this is the other aspect that a lot of women and men just don't simply understand when they turn around and say there's not enough masculine men. Well, you can't be fully masculine unless you have something to teach. So think about it. You don't want to get with a virgin because you have to teach her. Yet and still, I say all the time, women are like grown children. You have to take care of them. You have to give them attention. You have to protect them. You have to provide and do all kinds of stuff. And they'll say, oh, yeah, well, we can get our own money. You still got to have provide. Provide is provision, and in order to have provision, you must be pro and have vision. So if you have no vision, you cannot provide. So regardless of what you're saying, oh, we can provide for our own selves as far as money-wise, you still have to have provision as a man to give to a woman. That leadership within it that provision has to be within it and within leadership. So regardless of the fact, in order to walk in true masculinity, you have to be able to teach. And if you have nothing to be able to teach, you cannot offer the true essence of your masculinity as a man. So I can understand why guys don't want to get a virgin. They don't have nothing to teach. They don't have the patience. And walking and being a wise man, you have to have patience. And this is something that I'm very grateful for having. My ex-wife used to say, "Boy, I have way more patience than her," and yeah, raising an autistic child at one point in my life, I had to have patience there. Had to be paying attention. Had to be thinking ahead. And this is one thing I preach to my son now: pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. I'm always, even now, saying it now, looking that way, saying it to him, pay attention. It's imperative. So in order to be able to teach, you have to be paying attention. And then when you're teaching the individual to pay attention, then they sharpen your skills in paying attention. It's going to be something they catch when they're learning that you don't. And it's like, oh, okay, well, you're learning. Same thing with it won't happen with your woman. If you're teaching her all of the things that you know, and to make her better than what she is, she's going to catch things that you don't. Why not teach? Why not? Like the greatest satisfaction I get in life is teaching. So a lot of guys, like I said, they want something already done, but when it's already done, another man's already made his imprint. So now she has to fight through his masculinity or the forms of his teaching to actually go with yours. How do you think that's going to work? Especially if he was good at something halfway decent. She's going to accept a lot of those teachings that he had, especially if they've been fooling around with each other. His DNA is imprinted on her. So therefore, she's going to be more prone to his teaching, to his ways. And you'll see some of it come out of it if you look long enough. But with the virgin, there's none of the only thing there with that kind of teaching and imprint on her is her father, if he was there. You don't have to cut through all that extra, man. You really don't have to cut through all that extra. And when I mentioned that to this individual, she agreed and said, that's deep. It really is that deep. And followed it up with, that's Aunt Pandora's box. Kudos to her. She went off to, yeah, that's the one with the, yep, because we just not quite ready for that uncovering, which when you think about it, it's really not that bad. We just self-sabotage. Everyone can have blemishes except for us. We must conceal, not feel, until the underwater volcano known as truth and emotions erupt. Until then, hands off Pandora's box. Although that wasn't what I was looking for. Yeah, there it is. No, we don't have pure emotions very well. That's anybody can only cover up so long. Here it is what she said. That's deep. This is true. Came to them for guidance and other things, got BS, and that jaded a lot of women towards men, thus starting the cycle of chaos we call dating now. These are her words. She called the cycle of chaos. I don't know. I'm just reading from it. I don't think I'm going to share, screenshot any of this. If I did, you would be able to see what's actually there. But, that's interesting. Of course, look at how we treat one another, nothing but pure distraction. This is why I say friendships between men and women are important. We have to unlearn a lot. It's time we help each other, not out trauma each other. I do enjoy conversations with her and any other Scorpios. Like I said, there's a mutual understanding that takes place, and we don't have an issue with having deeper conversations. A lot of other signs you have conversations with is usually it's not that deep, which is why I don't expose myself that much to various individuals, because the minute you say it's not that deep, I don't really want to I just have no desire, because for me it's always that deep. It's always that deep, and a lot of people just simply don't like to go back into the past and remember things of the past, because your past gets you to your present. As I said, I was just talking when I took my bike to the bike shop yesterday. I got to take it back tomorrow. When we were talking, I was mentioning the whole pedal situation, and I did have a recent ordeal, maybe last month it was, going up the hill, one of the steepest hills around here. And that's why I was trying to ask him about my charrings and the chain steady popping off. He couldn't figure out why, even with the gap, he just couldn't figure out why it's constantly popping off and may not have to get a new crank. But with that, going up the hill, it popped loose, and after having a few instances where my feet not coming out of the pedals fast enough, that was a close call up a steep hill, which I more or less would have been tumbling back down with that bike, which would have sucked. But instantly, my mind went to that, and I literally yanked my foot out of that, because in another second, I was tumbling off. And of course, I'm sure it's on that video, because I usually video my rides. It's on that video where we probably, I don't think I can put that one up yet, somewhere in the storage. But you'll see on there, if I ever put it up, where there's a slight jerk. And actually, that might have happened twice on that hill. I think that did happen. And if I did put it, that might have been the one where I actually cut that part out. So I didn't put that up there. Yeah, I know on that one I actually skipped that part. So yeah, it's not actually. I actually did upload that. I cut that part out. Matter of fact, it's the ride where I got all those different angles, lakefront beach. Yeah, so that one, yeah, that was definitely last month. But yeah, it's things like that, man. We remember this stuff, man, and it's hard to get something out of your mind, man, and it's hard to get something that you've experienced, just not to react to it. And when it comes to pain, that's just one of those things. Now this is thoroughly fresh, but a lot of things prior to before that, I learned how to okay, I experienced this. I'm not going to be afraid of it. Therefore, this is what I need to do and the measures I need to take in order to not have that experience. Because I know this experience can happen. The experience doesn't control me. I control the experience. So with that, it's something that you have to work through. And unfortunately, this is what tends to happen when you experience certain things. But like I said, the whole thing with this conversation, you don't have this issue when you're dealing with virgins, man. They don't have any experience. there's no experience like that there. They're just fresh. They're they're they haven't been hurt, man. It's just a different experience, man. That's all I can say, man. It's just a flat out different experience. The level of femininity is at an all time high. They're not tainted. It's like heaven on earth. At this age, it is like heaven on earth, man. And yeah, that's all I can say, man. It's a different experience at this age. Yeah, I've been around some when I was younger, and I turned them down like a fool because I didn't know any better. But knowing what I know now, man, it's a beautiful experience. So it'd be nice if we push that. It'd be nice if guys actually didn't ruin a bunch of these women out here. 'Cause like she said in our conversation, a lot of them are the way they are because they experienced some type of hurt. And once that hurt sets in, it's hard for it to be undone, especially with women considering they are more emotional than we are. So they're going to hold that emotion. We all know this to be true. You give something to her and you thought it was over with, and she brings it up 5, 10 years later down the road. Whether it's 2 weeks later, 5, 10 years later, 20 years later, it comes up somewhere down the road. It's just how they are. But it's just best to not put ourselves in that situation to ruin them. But in the meantime, it's your boy Will Mike Craven. I done rambled on longer than what I should have. Yeah. Hit that like, subscribe button, share, all that other good stuff. Till then, I'll let you boy.